Live from the Hoboken Historical Museum in beautiful uptown Hoboken, New Jersey. What is this? This is Artist Talk. It's not Hoboken Talks. This is a sporadic series that when we have a new art exhibit here in the upper gallery of the museum, and it just opened yesterday. It's called On the Steps of St. Anne's, a collection of photographs from the feast 2001 to 2022 by our guest, Bob Delevante. How much of this can I tell you? I'll tell you that it's open and it runs till August 25th, so you have some time. If you're in the greater Hoboken area, come on down and take a look at the work in person. But if you can't, well, guess what? During this interview, we're going to look at some of the images, so it'll be like you're here, but without, I don't know, from the comfort of your own home. And hey, I'm Jack. Now this is where it gets tricky. That's my name. And this is our guest and our featured artist, Mr. Bob Delevante. And welcome.
Thank you.
I wanted to clear something up right away because it had been advertised that museum director Bob Foster was going to conduct this interview.
Yes.
And he's not here. And Rand, I don't know if you have been following this, but he apparently he tested positive for a banned substance. Did you hear that, Rand?
Oh, no.
Word's still coming through. We don't have all the details, but apparently he refrigerated some fresh mutts. And
no.
Yikes.
But we need to confirm that. But he'll be back with us soon.
Well, I hope he's okay.
Remorse has been,
Yes.
But again, welcome and congratulations.
Thank you.
And did they have to scramble to find some random person to interview you? No. I am a longtime fan.
Oh, thank you.
Look, folks, I'm wearing my...
Oh, my goodness. You're the guy with the shirt.
I have the shirt.
Wow, that is awesome.
Solo album
Yes.
from...
1999, I think.
And I somehow think it was like a combination. It was like the shirt and the CD or something. I forget what the...
Always trying to work it. We're going to do it.
You got to work it.
Wow, that's great. There are not many of those. I don't know if that's a good thing or... check on eBay.
Well, it's the kind of thing that everyone who got it kept it.
Yes.
Or framed it. And,
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. That's
right.
Fun.
All right. Also, if you're watching this live, as some people are, and that number will grow over the course of the hour, you can comment and you can ask questions, or maybe Bob from back in the day, and our technical director, Mr. Rand Hoppy, ding. Every time we mention Rand's name, a bell rings. You're right, that's right. Attaboy, Rand. But as long as you're not saying something untoward or unrelated, Rand will pass it along and it'll show up on the screen.
Nice.
But let's start in the early days. You grew up in Rutherford?
Grew up in Rutherford,
New Jersey?
Yes.
Well, let's see a picture of...
That is not Rutherford.
Well, it's not Rutherford. It's what's your guess as to?
My grandfather had a house in Hoboken, right outside Long Beach Island.
Okay.
So I'm assuming it's around there, and that's my dad. And so my earliest, fondest memories are at the Jersey Shore, and I had. My mom was one of 5 girls, and I had lots of cousins, and we would all go down there and sleep in this little bungalow that I remember sleeping under a kitchen table. They were lining kids up like firewood, cordwood on the floor, and some of the greatest times. And this is an early shot from down there. I do not remember this photograph being taken, but
Why would you? Well, should we go to the next? Let's go to the next photo. You've aged a few
years. A lot.
Probably some relative said, you sprouted up.
Yes. A lot has transpired. This is my first communion, and at the time we lived in Milan, in Italy.
What the?
Yeah. My dad worked for GM.
Sure.
And was transferred there in 1969, I believe, or I'm sorry, 65. And I think GM was doing some work, working with Fiat, and we lived there for almost 2 years. So I made my first communion over there.
Wow.
Okay. As a photographer, I always like this picture. I tell, I've taught some classes, and I say, nowadays, everybody's shooting digital, and they shoot 1 million pictures.
Sure.
And this guy's brought me in the studio, set me up there, and lined me up, and he took 1 picture, and that was it.
One and done.
Yeah. So very economical with the film and stuff. But I sort of come as a photographer from that school. Like I don't shoot quite as much because I started with film and everything. But yeah, that's in Milan in about 1965.
Okay. And Rand, let's go back. Oh, hey, look, it's Alice Delevante, cousin Alice from Florida.
Well, hello.
When's the last time you saw?
Oh, I can't remember. A long time, very long time. Yes.
Well, I hope it's not too humid down there, Alice.
Yeah.
So let's Rand, let's go back to the 2-shot as it were. Because I didn't even give the full introduction, but sharper viewers will understand that you've had success as a musician, but this show is not musical; it's visual.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, that's. So I'm wondering, like, as the kid that we saw in 1965 and before, what do you feel kind of entered your head first, or was it just all kind of swirling around?
Between the two, you mean?
Between visual and...
It was always visual first. I never really thought about music as it was visual first. I had, we'll see some pictures of an uncle who was a painter, and he taught at Cooper Union. I had older cousins that studied at FIT and did display design. My mom painted, and that was more. I drew growing up and stuff. And we played. My brother and I played guitar too, but in my head, I was always going to. Well, you take little roads. My first year of college, I was pre-dental, but that's a whole. I don't really want to talk about that one. That's a whole other story. But I was always going to be. I thought I'd be a visual artist.
Right. Okay.
But we started we're at the end of college. I don't know if I'm straying too far from your question.
No. We can look at some more images as well.
There's a picture. I started, my brother and I started a bluegrass band.
Okay.
And we just met a banjo player, and if you have a banjo player, you have a bluegrass band. It's a law. So.
And your brother's Mike Delevante. And the age difference is?
Almost 3 years.
Okay.
I'm just about 3 years older than Mike. And we enjoyed. We had grown up playing together, just some guitar and stuff. And I remember babysitters teaching us. You learn. We had a teacher that taught us the old kind of songs, and these babysitters taught us, like all of a sudden we were learning Simon and Garfunkel songs and Neil Young songs. And I remember we were taking guitar lessons, then we switched to a different guy, and he greeted us in I'm dating myself, like a fringed vest and electric guitar. We knew this is going to be great. We were learning those kind of songs.
Right.
But we enjoyed singing together, and a lot of vocals are a very big part of bluegrass band.
Yeah.
Banjo player, we had a stand-up bass player, and we formed this bluegrass band. And you'd think, okay, in northern New Jersey, there's not a lot of that going on, but there was a really big audience for it, and we had a great time, did well playing bars and stuff.
Let's catch up with this. Let's see some more. Go back to the photos.
This might. Yeah, there's our bluegrass band. That's us. And we were playing, I think that was a 4-H fair thing out at Willowbrook Mall, maybe?
Right, okay.
Yeah. But we did a lot of, bars, and it was funny, we didn't know, oh my God, we thought we were a bluegrass band, and my daughter.
Emma Delevante says,
you.
coolest dad ever.
Well, thank you. Oh my God, I lost my train of thought.
And point out who's who in this.
Okay. I'm on the left there. My friend Matt, stand-up bass. John Zillis is playing the spoons. He was a really good spoon player. And he would show up, and he had the box that your grandma's finest silver was in the dining room.
Right.
He had one of those, and he would open it up, and all his spoons were displayed, different weights. Brenda Brown is a fiddle player. Then my brother Mike right there.
Right.
And then Billy Donnelly was our banjo player. And we started, and we didn't have enough songs, and this bar hired us. And as you're young and you're like, wait a minute, you're going to give us money and free beer? This is amazing. We played, and we did 3 sets. And the bluegrass song, Foggy Mountain Breakdown?
Yeah.
We finished each set with Foggy Mountain Breakdown because we didn't have enough songs. Then we got an encore, and we did Foggy Mountain Breakdown, of course. So, and we weren't ready for it. It was fun. We cobbled together a little sound system. I swear to God, we had 3 mic stands, and one was the inside of an artificial Christmas tree. One was a film projector stand for the screen, and the third was a bird cage holder. And we taped the microphones to them, and then we finally started getting, you can see there was sort of gear here by the time we got to the mall, I guess. But we had a great time. We played a lot of fun shows, and it started as, like, Matt on the bass was my closest friend, and Mike and I were always playing together. John and Brenda, John on the spoons, and Brenda was Mike's girlfriend. John went to art school with Mike, and we were just all very close. And the guy in the back, you can hardly see him, our sound man, was another close friend from high school. So it all grew out of friendships. We would get together at houses and play, and then someone said, we could hire you to do that. It wasn't like we said, let's put a band together to make, play out and make some money. It was more to have fun. So.
And then, of course, for college, you're at the Parson School of Design. So
I went to
keeping that visual.
Yeah, and again, this was sort of a fun thing. This was probably this picture my senior year in college, I guess. It was around that time. And again, I grew up in the suburbs in Rutherford, and going to Parsons really opened my eyes. It was a whole nother world. It was amazing, and just the downtown New York at the time, the late 70s. There were CBGBs. I would go to Max's Kansas City, and although it was very different kinds of music. I always thought bluegrass was like, at the time all punk was going on, right? Going to see bands, like I'd see the Dead Boys and the stuff, and bluegrass to me was like.
Joshua Ravenscraft says, "Wow." What else is there to say?
I think encapsulates it. So I always thought bluegrass was kind of the punk rock of country.
Well, you and Hilly, because at CB.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we ended up playing there, not in this form, not the bluegrass band, but it was a great time. We had a really good, and it sort of morphed into writing our own songs and wanting to be more of a rock kind of band.
Right.
So,
All right. So let's But you're still thinking I'm going to be a visual
Oh yeah,
artist, designer.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And this is a band called Who's Your Daddy, and that is on the roof of the guy in the middle is Chris. That's the same bass player. That's Matt on the left.
Okay.
And Chris, that's his building on Willow Street. I think he still has a place there. And that's us on the roof. I think our first promo shot.
And I know Bob Foster, if he were here, he'd want to ask. Well, you were in Rutherford, and then you were going to college in the big city. What brought you to Hoboken?
We started. First, I moved to Weehawken, but we started working in the recording studio here, Water Music, and
Sure,
everybody's heard of, a lot of folks have heard of Water Music, and I just loved coming to town, and there was something. There was such a great kind of music community. We met Peter Holsapple from the DBs.
Sure.
I actually met him in New York. He worked at a record store near my brother Mike went to SVA, and Mike met him there. He said, "Oh, you should check this band out." He gave us an REM record, the first,
Wow.
And
Okay.
so just Hoboken scene, and I loved the way it felt. It seemed like a little movie set or something all the time, and it was just the characters and the people were wonderful, and so I was always kind of drawn to it, and ended up after Weehawken, a year in Weehawken, I moved down here.
Okay.
About 80. We're just talking about this. I think 82.
All right. And where in town did you?
I lived at Park Avenue, 613 Park Avenue first, and then for a year or two over on Church Square Park, like looking at the park, which was really nice. Yeah,
right.
yeah. And then in '93 moved to Nashville, but spent 11 years here.
And who's your daddy was together for?
Oh gosh, oh man, that's a good question. Quite a bit of that time. I mean, and then we started playing as the Delevantes near the end.
Kind of
morphed
into.
People left the band. Matt, the bass player there, left, and we hired. We met Brad Finkel, who's the owner of the Hoboken Farms.
Okay.
And that's how we met. Yeah, I've worked with him on design stuff for his company now, but he was our bass player. So
Wow.
that's how we met him. Yeah.
Now this next photo. I was wondering about this because Eric Kammer
Okay.
for Hoboken Talks is twice a month,
Okay.
where we talk to musicians, but anybody. And Eric started out as the most loyal fan, never misses an episode.
Okay.
And has become so important in the lore of Hoboken Talks that he was interviewed, and then he became the interviewer.
Oh wow, nice.
But I was wondering, is he going to be there for
Oh good. Well, go ahead.
the artist talk?
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
here. Well, wait, put that back up. Wait, he lived on maybe
Garden.
across paths with him, around the block from me. He
It's
lived
fun-
on Garden.
It's funny when I come back, I always see familiar face. Like I didn't know them, but I know that guy, or I know that woman. And like you just definitely recognize a lot.
Right,
of things,
right.
Yeah.
So before we were so not rudely interrupted, I was going to want to see how much time passed before the next photo, which is well. That's you mentioned your great uncle.
Yes, my
Sidney?
great uncle Sidney was a painter. Yep, there you go, Alice. There you go. And he was amazing. He was a painter, and he taught at Cooper Union for many years. A lot of in famous designers like Milton Glaser had him for class and have mentioned him in interviews as being because he was a really amazing, interesting guy. I remember he lived in New York, I think on 113th Street. And he came out to visit us once in Rutherford, and he took the bus out. And we lived on the, just down the block from where the bus dropped him off. And he came off the bus, and he was smaller, he was about 5'2", and he had a black suit on, and a black turtleneck, and a black beret. And he came walking down the street, and he had these emerald green translucent glasses. And we're talking early 70s, and in my head, like the whole world like stopped, like
Right.
cars ran into trees and stuff, he was such just an unusual looking guy, and he was so interesting. And this is one of his paintings. He started out as an illustrator and did a lot of magazine covers, but then discovered this kind of interesting abstract way of painting, and I have a few of them. They're hard to find, kind of, so I have a few at home, and a few of his sketches and stuff too. But he taught me a lot and was very inspirational in my visual and musical work. Because there's another slide that has he would do these little books for his art openings, and they were really kind of handmade. He would make copies, and I guess he stapled them together,
Right,
and there were
right.
little sketches in them and little poems.
You want to read that for us?
Sure. Colorama. The number 3 was warm with love. The question mark wore one green glove. Lean letters leapt like tiny toads, and Mr. Moose spoke 15 odes. Pink winds played tender lullabies. White trees sang songs to 20 skies. Red rocks ran 30 miles or more, then 40 elephants waxed the floor. And it just kind of, I'm that age, and it just kind of blew my mind. Like,
Yeah,
wow,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
fun,
yeah.
And yes,
See,
yeah, the
Cousin
green
Alice
glasses.
remembers
Yeah, yeah.
the green glasses.
And the galumps, yep. We called the characters. He just influenced me so much, to write lyrics like just freely like that,
Right, right.
And I never got to that. I don't think I've gotten to that abstract a level, but it showed me what you could do, and
Yeah.
where you could go with things. And he was just very confident in it, and it was just I enjoyed him so much,
That's great.
Yeah. Okay, this is now we're at CBGB's.
But that's not you on stage.
That is not.
No.
No, that is me taking the picture, though. This is when I was at Parsons, and a lot of, like I just started mentioning, the downtown scene then was I look back on how lucky I saw bands like, these are the Dead Boys at CBGB's, and I saw a band called Suicide at Max's
Sure.
Kansas City. I saw Plasmatics here. It's funny, I was going through old negatives, and I'm like, man, that looks like it was at CBGB's. I think it was the opening band for either the Dead Boys or the Plasmatics. I'm like, that looks like Brian Setzer. And I looked it up, and he had a band called the Bloodless Pharaohs, and they opened up some shows at CBGB's, So it was just, I got to Parsons and didn't know a thing about this world, and I'd come from, the suburbs and AM radio, and it was what it was at the time. It was great too. One of my first concerts was Wings at the Madison Square Garden, sure. and then Marshall Tucker and Jethro Tull. But this was like this new world that I had never knew anything about. This a lot of my class with this wonderful illustrator, photographer, designer named Julia Gorton said, "Oh, you got to go down to CBGB's," and I went down with a friend and was just, loved it.
The thought of bringing a camera with you, like how early in your Parsons time did you?
Probably the second. Well, as I mentioned, I went to 1 year of
pre-dental.
Pre-dental, which I realized wasn't the route for me. I went to Seton Hall for.
Well, you don't know. You still could have in the future. So
I don't know. I don't know now, but Seton Hall for 1 year, then transferred. So I think the second year. I had to take a photography course,
right,
and sort of fell in love with it.
Yeah,
it was all black and white. My brother Mike had a Pentax and borrowed it from him, and I would take it to shows. I have a ton of I have shots from CBGB's. I have shots from the Bottom Line, and lots of shows back then. So, and I was sort of bouncing between this weird world of. At this time I'm in a bluegrass band.
Okay.
I'm going to see the Dead Boys. Right. But then I'd go see David Bromberg at the Bottom Line, and so it all, I don't know, in my head it all seemed to kind of work, So it was all very real, basic music, and maybe it was an acoustic guitar or it was a Les Paul. It didn't, it was just it all worked for me.
And let's see, did we have an? Well, this jumps ahead a bit, so let's go back to the two shot and the Delevante's landing a record contract. How long did it take between morphing from Who's Your Daddy into the Delevante's?
Just a couple years. We started to. We were playing at. There was an event called the New Music Seminar in New York.
Sure.
And we were playing, and a gentleman from BMI in Nashville saw us and said, that was probably in September, he said, of 88. So you should come down to Nashville. Your music would do really well. And we knew a bit about what was going on in Nashville, but we decided a few months later, right before Thanksgiving, I guess, we went down there and met people that we work with to this day. And
this is the early 90s?
No, this was late 80s.
Late 80s, okay.
We're starting the Delevantes at this time. And we went down there and met the three guys who sort of co-produced our record eventually, the first record we did. Mike Porter, who was a publisher in Nashville, right. Mike Clute, who was a great engineer, and Gary Talent from the E Street Band.
Right. Now, what was he doing? That's kind of far from E Street.
Well, it is. Yeah, well, he had just moved there. He was working with a lot of bands out of there.
Yeah.
And Gary had some roots in Tennessee, really, down near Chattanooga. So I think he wanted to move down there. And there was a lot of music stuff we realized happening. I mean,
Music City.
Well, but in our world
right,
too,
right,
there was always the George Jones, and but in our world, we realized, oh wait a minute, John Prine lives there, Steve Earle lives there,
right.
I mean Lou Harris, who were people we eventually worked with, and it was like that roots world that became the term Americana. Now, that
alt country,
exactly, and that Americana wasn't even a term at the time, but that was all going on there. And when we got to Nashville, we realized that there's so much more there. There's hip hop bands and R&B. You don't. Obviously, Nashville's known for its country music, and it is and always will be.
Right.
But some of the greatest musicians I've ever met lived there, and I learned a lot about playing and singing and stuff there. So, we started visiting. That was the first visit, and kept coming back, and I think in 92 we told some friends of ours we're going to just stay for a week or so, and I think we stayed for over a month at their house. It's become a running joke, and they were very kind to us and opened their home to us. And then we moved there in January of 93.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you had already recorded the first?
We had done some demos, and in let's say a few months later we got a publishing deal with Warner Chappell.
Great.
But we had met these people, it wasn't like in just a few months, so years we had known them. And then in 95 we signed a deal with Rounder Records,
right.
which was out of Cambridge, and it was Alison Krauss was on the label, and we were on the label, and
sort of a folky label.
And they were trying to make inroads. Country music was doing really well, so labels were trying out alt, like you use the term alt country. Yeah. So that's where we eventually signed, was at Capitol Records, because they were trying different, trying to widen their net a little bit, different bands. But we did a record for Rounder in 95 and started touring with that. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I moved. This is not about me, but I moved here in '94, and I'm just a total music head. So they're from Hoboken, but they're not in Hoboken. Right. But mention Hoboken, and I also wanted to ask. You must have crossed paths early on with photographer Danny Clinch.
Yes, Danny, and everybody in that world knows Danny. He, I guess I was working at a freelance job all this time. Like before we moved there, we were working freelance jobs. We meaning my brother and myself.
Right.
You know? And I worked at that catalog, J. Crew.
Sure.
Yeah, in the art department. That's where I met my wife, and we were playing a show, and this woman said, "Oh, a friend of mine, my roommate is a photographer. He'd like to take your photos." And we were a new band, so you need new photos, and he took them, and we're like, "Wow, these are really good," you know. And he looked at me and said, "Wow, this is pretty good. Maybe I can do this," you know. And so we were one of the first bands that he did on his own, because he assisted other photographers.
Right.
But
I was we have from Allison Y. Kirk says, was it only a month? Mike was on our couch, and you were coming in with the Cristal.
No, Crystals is the little hamburgers.
Oh, okay.
Cristal. We couldn't afford Cristal.
Okay.
It was Crystals.
At 2 a.m. Felt a little long. So those were your hosts,
these are
your kind,
yes, our lovely host. Yes,
very patient.
now I'm in trouble. Oh man. Yes,
but I guess around that same time, I was working at Scholastic down there, and Danny was shooting for the Classroom magazine.
Yes, yeah.
And crazily, you had the opening here yesterday, and I went straight from here down to Asbury.
Oh,
I was looking to kill a little time, and I heard music playing from Joe Grishecki.
Yeah, my son. It's so funny. My son we had visited the gallery down there.
Yeah.
Years ago, and when we played down there, and my son was asking me who Joe Grishecki was, and I was describing his. And then I saw he was playing there. Yeah. So did you get to see that?
I was in the front row.
Oh, wow.
And
you were all over the
Danny
place.
got up there with the harmonica. Yeah,
I thought he was out of town, so he must have come back. I
think it was a sort of put together last minute, but with a guy like that, it's been cool. Like seeing his name in like the kids magazine, and then whoa, he Springsteen and Pearl Jam.
Right. Well, it's funny. He told a story. He said they were working, and he was doing some of that Scholastic stuff. But I also think he was, someone gave him a job shooting LL Cool J or something.
Right.
He's like,
right.
Or the Beastie Boys maybe in Manhattan. But he said he realized maybe I can do this because he had 4 or 5 shoots in a week, and and I think several of them were Scholastics.
Right.
Yeah, I remember him mentioning that. Yeah. That's funny.
But this is not about Danny Clinch, but it just did another person with the photography and music where he leaned into the photography a bit more.
Yeah, and Danny was very inspirational and helped me with I was like when. We stopped playing as much. I'm jumping ahead a little bit later, and was trying to get back into visual work and doing some photography. Danny said, "Oh, try this camera, try that camera." So we've been friends for a long. Danny photographed my wedding, so I have a really good wedding album, and we played Danny's wedding.
Nice.
So,
okay.
We've been friends for a long time. Yeah.
All right, now let's go back to that Emmylou. So this is. What year? This is...
probably, we did the first record in 95, and then this might have been in 97. I can't remember if it was right before or after the Capitol record. It might have been right after. We did some tours with John Prine, and we were very lucky to tour with some of our heroes. John, Steve Earle. We did a long tour right before we came back and did our Capitol record. This might have been after the Capitol record then. This is in...
I mean, you're riding pretty high here.
Oh my God, it was wonderful. Yeah, Emmylou asking us out for an encore. They were all so nice, man. John Prine, every night would come. We'd sing Paradise with him, and sometimes I'd pinch myself. I'm played on stage with John singing, and the same with Steve and Emmylou. They were always so kind. And this is in Europe. It might be Finland or something. We were playing.
Okay.
We did a tour in Europe with Emmylou for a couple of weeks. Yeah. So, her band was great, and the John Prine tour and the Steve Earle tour we did acoustic, but this one we got to bring our band, so it was fun. And then her band, but with the John Prine, that was really funny. His band, Mike and I, the first night played alone. then his bass player said, "Hey, let me sit in with you for a few songs." We're like, "Is that okay?" And just, John, mind? He's like, "John doesn't care," you know. And like, by the end of the tour, his whole band was playing with us. They were so nice, and John was so nice, and he didn't care, you know. So, we had some really wonderful tours with some people that we loved. Yeah.
And let's, Rand, what's next? Now that, all right, so you do the 2 records, and you know, get a lot of attention, and you're with Emmy Lou, with Steve Earle. With, I guess let's go to the 2-shot again as we delve into the mind of Bob Delevante. Then what happens?
Lots of stuff. I mean, I had a couple kids.
Okay.
Touring got crazy with, you know, I went the Steve Earle tour. I went away for, I can't remember, 10 weeks. And when I came home, my daughter looked at me and said, "You look familiar." But,
right.
You know, and you know, and I kind of missed doing visual work.
Yeah.
And it had just gotten kind of crazy, and Mike decided to stop for a little bit.
Okay.
And I did a few records independently, and I loved
Porch Light.
Yeah, there you go, Porch Light. And I loved another record called Columbus and Colossal Mistake, and I tried to it's like a magician, man.
Well, I brought this one because it's again songs and photographs.
Well,
so it's
I was trying to incorporate. I'm doing the same thing now. I've been working on a little recording and trying to figure out, you know, maybe it's a photography book I'm just trying to figure out how to pull the 2 things together, which I really like doing. And I miss doing visual work, and I think Mike did too. So we ended up staying home and, you know, working in some photography, but also doing design work. So.
Okay, so now let's jump to these photos.
Yeah, that's Gary Talent.
The great Gary Talent, bass player for the
Street band.
Earth-shaking.
That's
I don't want to do the whole thing.
We're running out of time. It's a portrait for Gary. I did for him, and I did lots of portrait work in Nashville. I think there's another one of Jeff Hanna, great friend, and the guitar player and leader singer of the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band.
Right.
And so I've done a lot of photography, portrait work for folks down there.
Okay.
And design work started coming back in my life. And as a photographer, I started documenting all the archives at the Country Music Hall of Fame.
All right.
Which is a really fun job.
Which is located in Nashville.
In Nashville, in downtown Nashville, and they have an amazing archive of artifacts. And this was up for a show called Dylan Cash. They have a permanent collection, but they have areas in the museum that switch out every couple of years. And this was a big one called Dylan Cash. And now this is a test pressing from Just Like a Woman. So, you know, I love photographing the stuff, and the history to me, just, you know, like to see little sketches like Bob Johnson did, and the producer or something on that.
Yeah.
This is, I think I was photographing a lyric sheet from Felice and Boudleaux Bryant, who
did all the
Everly Brothers and lots of, you know, lots of famous country songs. Yeah, and they had their notebooks. It was amazing. I think. They did them in those old accounting books. Remember those old? And they stamped a number in each, so they made the page numbers. And then I was going through, and they're like, "Here's the lyrics to "Bye Bye Love," and here's "Rocky Top." It was like, oh my God, you know. And it was, and to me, I just love dealing with all that stuff. So,
you know, our director Rand Hoppy, well, you know, when he's not doing these. Live streaming events. He's the collections director for the museum.
Oh, there you go.
Quite an impressive digital collection. So similar,
yeah. This is
things which people can find on the museum website.
This is Hank Williams' suit that I think this is the one suit they found him in the car.
I like that. It's like a proto-nudie suit, or
It might have been, yeah. I did a whole, if you go to the Hall of Fame's website, we did a whole week of all the clothing. And it's a whole
Wow, okay.
amazing. I'm not sure it's but it's a large part of their collection is all the nudie suits and all the other companies that did it. And
He was a skinny guy.
he was a very skinny guy.
Looks like your confirmation photo. Maybe you could fit in that suit.
A little snazzier. I mean,
Right.
my parents wouldn't have gone for the Western feel.
And then this is a album. No, what?
An
An
album cover for the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Did some of my design work. Did a whole cover of a whole album of Dylan covers. So this was the
And you
cover.
get I think everyone takes some time to really appreciate this, because at first you see, well, there's dirt and there's the Dylan sunglasses, but wait, the dirt forms his hair, and then we go back to Milton Glaser.
Right, exactly. You know,
Boom! It all comes together.
it's that iconic Dylan shot, and I mean, Milton Glaser is one of my idols. And, just his conceptual work with design, the way he thought about things, I just love. So, yeah.
Next, and
A little photography.
from the Demolition Derby.
Demolition Derby down there in Tennessee, which is quite the affair every summer. A friend of mine drove in it for a few years, and he said he was an optometrist, and he wanted one of those big trophies for his office. I'm like, I don't know if that's going to get you more or less patience. I don't know, just that you rode in this thing. And it was very funny. The first year, he on his car, he had a big pair of glasses painted. I'm like, oh my God, it's over. You're going to get creamed. But I love shooting events like that, like the feast, the lights and just the whole feel of everything. This is part of a state fair down there.
Yeah.
So one night they have different rodeo and they have all different stuff. And the Demolition Derby, besides having that connection with my friend, this was, I just love shooting it too.
Well, it's just cool.
Oh my God, this guy was so proud of that car. He gave me this look as he went by with everything falling off, but he was still in it, And you guess it's like I forget how you say it. You go in the first round, whoever's left, you can go and work on your car. And they pull hunks off that it can still run,
right?
And then you get back into like the last guy standing, So elimination. That's more of those.
Darn Malachi brothers. All right.
Look at those tires. I mean, it's crazy that it's still going. That's the Jersey Shore. Actually, I think that's down in where's the ride? In Bayhead, Point Pleasant.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's a beautiful shot.
No, thank you. Yeah, I think my kids might be in there somewhere. They're one of them flying around. And I always love shooting that stuff. And you'll see eventually, it informed a lot of design work. And I used a lot of these shots. I didn't use that shot, but I used a similar one in a Southside Johnny poster. And
here's a Southside Johnny.
Yeah. This is that is a photograph I took of the roller coaster. But I did use that, what's that called, that ride? The other one, but in a different poster. But yes, this is a roller coaster I did for Southside.
And not that long ago, because the summer stage.
Yeah. This is more recent. There's an artist named Tyler Childers, and my daughter works with him, does some photography, or his tour photographer now. And so I got to do a few posters. And actually, that's my old car.
Okay.
A 1960 Pontiac Catalina. There was never a mule in it.
For a second, I thought it was, on my glasses, I thought it might be Ben Vaughn's Rambler.
No, yeah, right. No, that's, the tour is called the Mule Pool Tour. So,
Okay.
an illustration job for John Bryan. That's him. He used to play a song called Lake Marie he'd finish his shows with and dance off stage. So that's him. And
That's
the
great.
The line
It's
of the chorus
a
lines.
little Pfeiffer, little Jules Pfeiffer with the dancing.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Whoa, wow, oh, wow.
Cause before I was like looking for Delevante related posts I'd made on Facebook, and one was 2018. I was sitting in Church Square Park, having just bought the most recent John Prine
Oh, okay.
CD, and then there was your name, there was
Yeah,
Danny
yeah.
Clinch's name, and I was
Right.
like, this is like.
Danny shot it, and I designed the package. Yeah, that was a fun one. I still work on a lot of stuff for John. They've released things. We just released a box set of the 45s that he released. There were 7 45s over his career, and we did it in the shape of I should have brought a picture. Shape of a jukebox, because he had a jukebox at his house, and that Steve Goodman gave him.
Oh wow!
And he co-wrote a song with Steve Goodman. It's really funny. John didn't like the song. Goes, no, don't put my name on it. And it became like a #1 hit. And I can't remember the artist's name. So Steve Goodman bought him this jukebox.
Nice.
And it's in the Country Music Hall of Fame now. But we made the box set in that shape, and the singles and the story and the book are in it and everything. So.
And the aforementioned, your old bandmate.
Right. Brad has this amazing company called Hoboken Farms, really great products, and I've been doing all the design stuff for Brad for years.
And kosher for Passover.
There you go. Yeah, it's great stuff. He sends it, we get it shipped down to us on a regular basis.
Right.
It's part of the deal.
And who are these sweet kids?
My kids, well, that's a few years ago, but yes, we tried to. That's Kate May, and then trying to introduce them to the Jersey Shore and the skee ball at a very early age. Right.
Yeah. They've got the tickets. Okay,
yeah, that's probably almost 20 years ago now. But yeah, they love the shore. There's an early Hoboken Farm shirt, actually.
Okay. And that looks familiar.
That looks familiar, right? These are some of the shots from the show. And
all right, so now the St. Anne's Festival. Now you started returning specifically to see to be here during the festival.
Yes,
or?
my wife always joked. He goes, "That's funny. You're going back right around the time the feast is happening." I'm like, "Wow, what a coincidence!" And, I first obviously heard about it and went to it when I lived here, and really didn't. I decided when I started getting back into design and photography work that I would come back and shoot it. And the first one was in 2001. And I came back, I'm trying to figure it 8 or 9 times, over the course, every other year or so, and shot it as much as I could. But I remember here, we were working in Water Music, and they were firing off those fireworks, and I was like, what's that? And the guy described it, and it might have been that year I first went to it to check it out. And I lived at Park Avenue, so it was very close, really, a few blocks away.
And it begins this year, Thursday. July 24th.
Wednesday, I think.
Wednesday?
Yeah, I think it's Wednesday, isn't it?
What is today? Today is a Monday. Oh, well, you're right. The Wednesday, the 24th.
Yeah. Today's the 22nd. And this is a fairly recent shot. This is one of the later ones. This is from 2022.
Right. And there's the St. Anne's steeple.
And
there's past Hoboken Talks guest Pat Leo, Patty Boyce Bacavento in the foreground there.
Oh, great.
And
excuse me.
His man Lewis.
I know Brad. I haven't been in a while, but Brad said he was in there the other day.
Well, I sort of slowed down. I still go past the festival every year, but since Piccolo's stopped doing a booth.
Yeah, this is from 2001, so it's a while ago. A little later, I'm trying to remember dates. That might be 05.
Right, people can come here to the museum and see the dates. You know, we don't want to give them everything.
That's right. Yeah, don't want to give it all.
John
Hayes.
Jan Hayes wants to know, what photo projects are you currently working on?
Still always doing the artifacts. Been
Right.
going in and out of there. I did a great one the other day. Oh my goodness. It was like some Bob Dylan stuff and Glenn Campbell's guitar. It was just really fun,
Cool.
you know.
Yeah.
And I'm going on Wednesday. I'll be shooting at the feast, so
Right, right.
maybe another chapter of that. And always doing portrait work. So yeah.
When you handling the artifacts, do you have to wear special gloves?
They do. They've gotten used to me. Like, it depends what it is. Some things I can touch, and they're
Right,
they're fine with it. Early on, I just I didn't know. I picked a guitar up and started playing it. He goes, you're really not supposed to. I think it was Chet Atkins' guitar. And he said the only reason the family gave us that was we promised no one would ever play it. Sorry about that. So, but I can move things a little bit. But it depends what it is. Like the other day, they pulled out. I forget it was Ray Charles sunglasses. Okay. So I was very careful with let them. They do. They all wear white cotton gloves and stuff. Yeah. The beer tent.
All right.
It's always blurry like that because of all the beer.
Right, exactly.
Excuse me.
Jill Klein has a comment. It makes me wish that they were here.
That's nice.
And love seeing your art and the history
I'd love to see
behind it all.
See those guys too. They're relatives, family.
Competing cheesesteak from Anne Marie.
Yep.
But that's
Right across.
I
Is
love
that? I can't see the other one. Is it G? I can't see it. Is it Gina? No, I forget.
look at this guy in the middle. He could fit in that Hank Williams
Yeah,
suit.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Hey,
Thanks. Thank you.
thank you, John.
Yeah, that's just some of the, that street is just so much fun to walk down. And we decided the title because I used to just sit up on the steps there a lot. And
Right.
going on, with the whole crowd. And, you'd see whoever the performer was that night, but just the people watching. And it's just so much fun. So much fun. Looking forward to seeing it this year.
I think the best one I saw there was Southside Johnny.
Oh, I didn't see that one. Yeah, I missed
And
that.
I have a pretty good photo of, because every time I've seen him, I try to get the crowd going, reach up and touch the sky.
Yeah.
Also saw Bernie Williams play
wow.
there.
One of the pictures is Danny Aiello performing a few years ago. I can't remember when it was.
Hoboken now, Rand, Danny never lived here, but he was always here.
To the pasta in the window.
Right. A quick anecdote. I had someone move to town, and they're like, "Oh, I feel like I'm official here. I saw Danny Aiello."
Oh, funny.
And I said, "No, you're official when you don't see Danny Aiello."
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know he was there.
His picture a number of
around,
years ago is in every
Yes.
restaurant. Yeah. Well, I guess we've run out of photos. That's all right.
Yeah.
But a reminder that the photo exhibit that we've been talking about and showing, and we didn't show everything.
No, you can't do that.
No. So you should come if you're able to come here. Runs till August, through August 25th. It'll be open that day. And I'm gonna. I'm speaking out of line, but there'll be some snacks here on August 25th.
Oh,
If you come.
nice.
If I have to buy them myself.
All right. Wow.
Do I thank Bob now? I guess I do. So
Thank you.
Thank you so much, because again, 30 years of fandom, you and your
That's
brother.
so nice. Thank you.
And so this is very cool for me. And but just to see, we didn't point out behind us some of the
there's some of the pieces.
Piccolos.
Yep. And the older stuff is black and white because I said I'd started experimenting with that, and then it turns that there's some digital that's in color and stuff. But
also another nice thing for people out there, if you're like, should I go? Should I not go? Another great Hoboken character, alternately known as Johnny Sinatra, or some call him Broadway John, who passed sadly a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But there's a great image of him, I guess, getting up on stage probably after a performance had ended, or...
I think that year he got up and sang, and he was just, again, some of the Hoboken characters. I would see him, and you were standing there at the feast, and this guy walks up to you in a full tux, and he was, I believe he was an usher at St. Anne's too. I think he might have helped out at Mass, maybe. I forget. But he was just always there, and I'd see him around town in his tux. He was ready to perform, I guess.
Yeah.
But I didn't know his name, but I'd heard the term Johnny Sinatra and stuff. Yeah. But I believe you're right. I think he passed away.
Yeah, he did. But so he's in this. Jerry Fallow, the recently retired Director of Cultural Affairs for the city of Hoboken, says, "Hi, Jack and Bob. Enjoyed the interview. Bob, loved seeing your work at the museum." I was here.
Yeah, I saw you. It was great seeing you too, Jerry.
Says, great show.
Oh, thank you.
So you're not going to get higher praise
I know.
than that.
Well, thanks.
And people can they can look for you at the feast.
That's right. I'll be my whole family has cameras around their neck.
Right.
One of the people with a camera around their neck. Yeah.
All right. So again, we want to thank the New Jersey Hudson County. Wait for it. The Department of Cultural and Heritage Affairs. That's not all. Also, Tourism Development, who support the Artist Talk series. Now, the shipyards, was that a dog in the distance?
Uh-oh.
Spooky. Ghost dog. The shipyard circle are the deep-pocketed donations to the museum, and then they are important. But what I always like to say is, anytime you come in and drop a few bucks in the box, it helps the museum. It helps put on the exhibits and the programs and the live streaming. So don't feel you have to be in the shipyard circle, but I'd like to give them a special shout out. Gary Beth Berman, Andy Carlson, Cynthia Cray, Chris Faulkner and Nancy Lynch, Beth Feinstein, Bob and his lovely wife Holly, Barbara Gross, dear friend of mine, Valerie Huffnagel, who, if your backyard is a mess, contact her. And Susan Gamba, Larry and Diana Enriquez, Catherine Kingsbury, Niall, or hit me pronounce it Neil, but Murray, Merritt and Joan Patterson, Justin Silverman, David Steele, my good friend Alan Stewart, the T. Rowe Price Program for Charitable Giving, Bill Tobias, very cool couple, Kate Valenta and Alexander Johnston. They are big music fans. Anthony Vetrano and Peter Wiley, and that includes many of our museum trustees. Downstairs at the museum, you can look at it before you see Bob Delevante's work, or you can see it after. It's your choice. You can go up and down. But a great show. Benedict J. Fernandez, photojournalist, and his dad and his brother worked at the shipyard. Benedict actually worked for a short time, but was more drawn to the photojournalist side, and some of the big civil rights events of the late '60s. He's there, including shooting the last year of Martin Luther King's life. So if you haven't seen that show. Now, Hoboken Talks, I've mentioned it. I'm, what do we have a date on that, Rand?
We do. I will get it for you.
All right, well, this was the series I was talking about before, Bob, and the next guest coming up, and this is an exciting one, it is Gene D. Plummer, also known as Gene Turonis.
Yeah, I remember.
Also known as the Singing Plumber. I would say he has great pipes.
Oh, man.
He has a holiday album coming out on Bar None Records.
Okay.
So I'm sure that'll be one topic that Jerry gets into. But also as someone who's been here from the insect trust days to the modern times and everything in between.
I remember I used to go see him in the early 80s. He would play at Court Street, and it was great.
August 22nd.
Oh, there you go.
Don't miss it.
Yeah, he was fun. It was a great band.
But Jerry Fallow, new to the museum board. Am I making that up?
A return to them.
Return! Oh, well, we'll have to get into that. But that should be a good one. And we're all over the place. We're on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and I don't know. We're not on the TikTok. We can't figure it out. But if you're on any of those things, like the post, comment. If you think a friend would be interested, share and subscribe. How does that help us? Well, it feeds the algorithm. And so the more people, the more clicks, the more it shows up in other people's feeds, and then they come to the shows that it's all a big circle. Can I get back to camera again? I wanted to say this before we said goodbye, but I want to say this in a beautiful thing. We began with that shot of your dad and you at the shore. And it's just a beautiful follow through in your life, the music, the photos, the shore, and I think that's a love that just quintessentially Jersey. So even though you're a Nashville cat, you'll always be a Jersey.
I told my kids when they were little, I would say deep down inside, you're from New Jersey.
Right.
And I think my daughter actually got in trouble in school for saying, the teacher's like, "You're not from New Jersey, you live in there?" She said, "No." My dad said, "Deep down inside, I'm from New Jersey." So, yeah.
All right. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And thanks everyone for tuning in. And if you missed anything, watch it later. So they're all archived on YouTube. From the Hoboken Historical Museum, I have been Jack Silbert with Mr. Bob Delevante, our technical director, Mr. Rand Hoppy. Good night.